What's up, guys? This is the Osmo.com night shift talking MLB for Saturday, May 12th. This is your host, Jay Kari. I'm going to talk both slates, go through position by position, and give you a little bit of a run through for both slates. So we'll see how this goes. We'll try to make it a regular thing on Saturday morning. We'll have the spotlight pitchers, hitters, and stacks out as well for the main slate only. So this will mostly be focused on the early slate. Let's start with pitching. I'm just going to open DraftKings and sort of go through the list for each position and then talk about some stacks at the end. All right, let's go start with pitchers, of course. Strasburg is 13.9. He's the highest priced pitcher on the slate, on this early slate. He'll probably be the most owned, maybe outside of Archer. The Diamondbacks do have a bunch of strikeouts in their lineup, so I do like Strasburg a bunch. The lineup is not out as of this recording, but I think he is worth the 13.9. I do prefer Strasburg point per dollar. I do prefer Archer point per dollar, but Strasburg may be the highest raw points pitcher on the slate, so can't really argue against using him here. Domingo Germán, I don't know much about him. Yankees pitcher, he had a really nice outing last time out. Went 6 innings, 30 DK points with 9 strikeouts. Only 84 pitches is a little bit concerning. He's got to be super efficient with his strikeouts if his pitch count isn't that high. I'm assuming they let him go 84 last game. They'll probably let him go 90, maybe 95. Probably won't get near 100, but seems like a little bit overpriced for 10-2, and the A's offense is it's one that I am a little bit scared of. Let's talk about Chris Archer, $9,400. I think he has probably the best matchup of anyone on this early slate, going up against the Orioles. The Orioles have a over 25% K rate against righties, a 76 WRC plus, and he's going to get a lot of righties here with Mancini and Jones, Machado, Scope, and Mark Trumbo, Caleb Joseph. Like, Archer has a 14.4% swinging strike rate. I think he is a pretty awesome play. He will be popular, but just the strikeout upside I think is a little bit too much to pass up, for me at least. Going down the list, I'm not on Clevenger. I just don't think there's enough strikeouts against KC. Just sort of a pesky offense. I don't love what I'm seeing out of Clevenger just in general. But,
I am lucky to have my mother. She's 80.
But I think that Clevenger is, I guess, a fine play. I'm not really on him, though. I do prefer Archer. I do prefer one guy that's a little bit cheaper, even in a pretty bad matchup. I'm not on Lester either. I just hate playing him. He does. I don't think he's that great against righties anymore. He's not the same guy. He's gonna get 9 righties here, and like lefties, yeah, I won't target against Lester at all. But right-handed hitting against Lester is, like, I love targeting righties against Lester. I think a lot of people don't do it for some reason, and he's just not that great of a pitcher anymore. Doesn't have the K upside here, so I will be targeting with some White Sox against him, even though there is a little bit. There's only a 2.9 run total, so I mean, you can make a case for him, but I'm not on him here. I think he's going to be chalk, and I don't think he's going to be good chalk. I do like Fulmer as sort of my cheap guy. I hate targeting against the Mariners, but Fulmer is cheap enough where I think that you can play him here. So, oh, they're not starting Fulmer. Man, they switched it on me. Okay. So, cheap pitching is tough then, with Matt Boyd going. I thought it was going to be Fulmer, obviously, but, man, there's not much below Lester. And I don't even know who I would choose if I had to choose a pitcher below 8,800 on DK. So, I'm looking to pay up now with no Fulmer on the slate. And that is kind of a buzzkill because I wanted to play $6,900 Fulmer, and now I obviously cannot do that. Let's go to catching. The two guys I'm looking at are, well, I should say the three guys. So Contreras, Russell Martin, and then Wellington Castillo I like against John Lester. John Hicks going up against a lefty, and Marco Gonzalez is also a nice play if he's in the lineup. Not really looking to pay down at catcher at all, so probably paying up. Let's go to 1B. Rizzo against James Shields is obviously in play. Going down the list, I'm not targeting hitters against Steven Strasburg, so no Goldschmidt for me. I like all the Red Sox, so Hanley's going to be in play. Justin Smoke is only $3,600 on DK. Yonder Alonso only $3,600 on DK. Matt Adams, most expensive first baseman, he's $5,000, but I can't even say that it's not a good play against Troy Scribner here. Matt Adams just been raking. We talked about it on the MLB strategy video a bunch, and he sort of deserves this price. I mean, he's probably overpriced, but he's going to be low owned because he is Matt Adams. Abreu, I do like against Lester. I like a little bit of a mini stack against Lester. I'll get to that in a little bit, but Matt Davidson, I do like against Lester. So all these White Sox are actually in play for me. Olsen is only $3,500 on DK. Makes for a pretty decent play against Jermaine. Let's go to second base. And there's really two guys that I'm targeting heavily. And that would be Solarte. And so Solarte is $3,700 against David Price. Price does struggle with righty power, especially. And then Robinson Cano is also $3,700. So it's not as good against lefty-lefty. I thought it would be Fulmer, but lefty-lefty, I think you can still go against Boyd. I'm not all that scared of that matchup. And then I do like Kipnis for $3,500. He's just cheap. Yeah. Let's go to third base. We will look at Matt Davidson is going up against John Lester, of course, $3,700. Anthony Rendon, I do like for $4,300 against Scribner. I do like a stack against Scribner, so not discriminating with the Nationals bats at all. And then my favorite third base play has to be Josh Donaldson against David Price, only $4,400. I know Price is a decent lefty, but I do not like his odds here of having a solid start. So I think Donaldson could take him deep. $4,400 is an awesome price for him. Shortstops, I like Trey Turner and Xander Bogaerts. I mean, that's not going to be any sort of hot take, but those are really the two guys that I'm looking at. If you want to go a little bit cheaper, I think you can go to John Segura, $4,000 leading off against a lefty. It's just Segura is just a good hitter, and now he gets a lefty, so sort of changing things on the fly for me a little bit. Outfielders, the Red Sox guys, Mookie and JD, are guys that I'll be targeting heavily. Matt Adams, outfield eligible. Kyle Schwarber up against James Shields. It's not great weather for targeting hitting against James Shields, with the wind blowing in Wrigley and it being only 54 degrees, but I'd still want to target some Cubs bats. Scrolling down the list, Benintendi, all these Red Sox are in play for me. Nick Castellanos up against Marco Gonzalez. I like that matchup, lefty-righty. Nelson Cruz and Mitch Haniger for both $4,100 against Matt Boyd. I think those are both awesome plays. Those guys both just mash lefty pitching, and Boyd's going to have a tough time with them. Who else do we have here? Ian Happ is not in the lineup for the Cubs. I was going to like him, but obviously not in the lineup, so do not play Ian Happ. I do like Teoscar Hernandez assuming he plays for 4,000 against Price. Let's talk about some stacks. Yeah, let's talk about some stacks. The Cubs are going to be an obvious one against Shields. So you got guys like Rizzo, Happ, Zobrist, Schwarber. You can make a case for all these guys. We know how bad James Shields can be. Cubs aren't my favorite stack with the weather, but I think that they are fine here. Nats going up against Troy Scribner. He had a 5.68 ERA, 131 WHIP in AAA this year. The Nats have a 106 WRC plus, highest on base percentage against righties this year. So all the guys I mentioned, Harper, Rendon, Matt Adams, Trey Turner, all these guys are very much in play. And then probably the top stack of the entire morning slate, I think that it's the Red Sox. They couldn't really be much better of a matchup for them. Marco Estrada has been pummeled by righties this year, 38.5% hard contact, over 91 mile an hour average exit velocity. And then the Red Sox, on the other hand, they're tops in the league in WRC plus, on base percentage, and ISO against righties. I mean, this is just going to be a rough start for Estrada. I think he gets pounded here. So I'm targeting him with Mookie Betts and Hanley Ramirez, JD Martinez, Sander Bogarts. I'm prioritizing the righties, but the lefties can be stacked up here too. Devers, Benintendi, Mitch Moreland. All these guys make for awesome plays. And then sort of my cheap stack against the grain, I think that the Blue Jays are a really nice stack here as well. Should be lower owned against Price. Price is obviously much worse against righties, and he's going to get 9 of them here. So he gives up 38.8% hard contact, a 4.56 xFIP, 341 WOBA. He's going to have a lot of trouble here, so I'm targeting him with guys like Teoscar Hernandez and Russell Martin, Solarte, Donaldson, of course, my favorite third baseman. Let's go to the main slate. Pitching here, you sort of have to pay up for Morton or Syndergaard. I mean, I guess you don't have to, but I think that's where a lot of the ownership's going to be. So I love both of those guys. I mean, point per dollar, I'd probably go Syndergaard. I think they're both projected for about the same amount of points in these matchups. Syndergaard going against the Phillies, and then Morton going up against the Rangers. Both teams I love targeting against with right-handed pitching. They will both be spotlight pitchers. Don't need to talk about them too much. I do like them both a ton. This isn't a great pitching slate once again. I do like Chad Kuhl a little bit. He's not a very fun play, but he does make some sense against the Giants. Just another team that I've targeted against, along with the Rangers and the Phillies. It's just a good strikeout matchup. Kuhl's coming off a really nice start. Just hoping he can sort of keep it together. It could go south for him, as it always can with Chad Kuhl. It could go south for him pretty quick, but he's sort of my cheap guy. And just going through the rest of the slate with pitching, I think Samardzija will be popular for 6,400 perceived. Good pitcher, but it's not a good matchup for Samardzija. Ross Stripling not going to go very long. Like, it's not a great slate for pitching. You can make a case for Stripling if he can squeeze out 5 innings, but he's going to have to be efficient because he's not a guy that goes very long, sort of a middle reliever. Mike Soroka is also a guy I consider, but I think he's going to be a little bit chalky. Sort of came down to earth in his second start. 7,500 is a decent price, but yeah, I don't know if I'll end up on Soroka even against the Marlins, who have a better looking lineup lately. I think Michael Wacha is going to get some ownership here. I'm not really one to play the Michael Wacha chalk. He's been okay, and this is a good matchup for him, but I'm not paying $8,000 for him. I'd much rather go down to Kuhl for what I think will be less ownership and just as good of a matchup. All right, let's go look at some catchers. We should talk about the weather in Philadelphia for Syndergaard. Syndergaard's probably going to have some lower ownership just because of the weather. I'm not going to talk about it too much, but just looks like a chance of rain. If this game's not looking good, obviously do not play an $11,500 pitcher. But if the weather clears up a little bit, I think Syndergaard is still a fantastic play. That looks like the only spot where there looks like there could be some weather. Maybe a little bit in Pittsburgh as well, but just keep an eye on the Philadelphia weather. Keep an eye on that, especially if you're considering playing Syndergaard, which I am. Catchers. Actually, let's talk stacks quick. So we got Coors Field on this slate. Chase Anderson versus Kyle Freeland. Freeland's not a guy I like targeting against, even in Coors. And the run total sort of says that. 5.3 for the Brewers. I think that Freeland's just sort of got Coors figured out. I'm not saying he can't get blown up, because if he doesn't have his stuff, if he's not creating ground balls, then he's going to get blown up in Coors. But I do think Freeland is a perfect pitcher for Coors. Ground ball, doesn't throw like a big looping curveball or anything, creates soft contact. So I'm probably off the Brewers, and that scares me a little bit because they have all these these righties who mash lefties. But man, I think I am off of that side of Coors. On the other side, I want to go all in on the Rockies. They're expensive, especially Blackman and Arenado. Cargo only 3,800. That seems pretty ridiculous. Going up against Chase Anderson. Anderson, underwhelming swinging strike rate. Bottom third in the league in whiffs per swing. He's got a curveball and a sinker, and they're just not going to move as well as they would in like non-Coors air. So he's done a pretty good job limiting hard contact, but I do not like his odds here in Coors, so I'm looking to target all these guys: LeMahieu, Blackman, Arenado, Carlos Gonzalez, Trevor Story. I mean, these guys are all in play for me. Much prefer the Colorado side of this Coors Field matchup. Another stack that I like is the Braves against Harlan Garcia. Garcia was exposed in his last start against the Cubs. He's only got a 165 BABIP against righties. I think that changes here. Braves have a ton of speed, a ton of power in their lineup. Their strikeout rate is the lowest in the league against left-handed pitchers. They're top 5 in on-base percentage, ISO, WRC+. You've got guys like Acuna and Suzuki and Tyler Flowers who can all hit lefties. I didn't even mention Ozzie Albies. How dare I leave him off? He's awesome. $5,200. The Braves are expensive, but outside of Coors, I think they are my next favorite stack. And if they aren't my next favorite stack, then probably looking at the Dodgers here. Bailey is certainly an attractive option to stack against tonight. He's got a 5.29 xFIP, 13.2% K percentage, 44% hard hit rate on the season. The Dodgers team total is up to 4.9. I'm certain that will be up to 5 by time that game starts. I'm sure they're going to get to Bailey early. It's baseball. I mean, anything can happen. But from what I'm looking at, like Cody Bellinger and Taylor, Matt Kemp, Jock Peterson, Yasmani Grandal, it's going to be a rough go for Bailey. And these guys aren't even that expensive. Like Taylor, $4,000, Peterson, $4,000, Grandal, $3,900, Bellinger, $4,500, Matt Kemp, $4,000 on DK. So I love the Dodgers as sort of a cheaper option if you can't get to the Braves, if you can't get to the Rockies. It's going to be hard to get Coors Field if you're playing Morton, and Morton will probably become a little bit chalkier as the day goes on, with people being worried about this weather. But he's an option I want to play at chalk. I don't really want to play chalk Michael Wacha. I like playing the guys at chalk that have a ton of strikeout upside, and Morton has as much as anyone. You can read about him in the Spotlight Pitchers. I think I'll be done talking about the main slate. Gave you a few stacks, gave you a few pitchers that I'm on. We'll know more as lineups come out. Hope you guys enjoyed this version of the Osmo.com Night Shift. Be sure to get on Osmo.com, subscribe to our premium product. You get a lot of good information from Alex, that is Osmo, one of the best DFS players in the entire world. And he's giving you a lot of stuff that you're not seeing at other sites. General strategy, mistakes he's seeing people making, and he's just a really, really sharp guy. And you can tell that when you see some of these videos. Those videos are premium, so sign up, check out the rankings, check out the ownership projections. They really help you, especially for a sport like baseball that is so variance-based. Good luck on both of these slates. Hope you enjoyed this podcast. We will see you back on Monday on the MLB strategy video with Josh.